Who creates jobs? Politicians tell us they do.
We created 1 million jobs in the state of Texas.
We added tens of thousands of jobs.
My job is to create jobs.
Creating jobs.
Wait, what? Where are all those jobs? Unemployment's now more than 9%.
I looked around for some of those jobs President Obama created.
No jobs here. Any jobs in here? Where are the jobs? You got them? You hiding the jobs? I thought he created all these jobs.
The truth is, we have fewer jobs today because politicians and unions get in the way. If I'm an employer, why do I want to hire someone when Congress and the Labor Department have so many rules I might never be able to fire that person? Or when the government might force me to employ these people.
Shame on Boeing!
This was one of many union protests against Boeing, and when Boeing tried to escape this, government sued them for trying to move to her state.
It's absolutely un-American.
Governor Haley will be here tonight, along with Governor Mitch Daniels, and the governor who's been the union's #1 target, Scott Walker.
Scott Walker has got to go!
Plus, I'll talk to a presidential candidate and former governor who says this.
I did not create one single job.
He's proud of that? Well, he should be, because politicians don't create jobs. Who does? That's our show tonight.
And now, John Stossel.
Now, how to create jobs. President Obama says he knows how.
The American Jobs Act answers the urgent need to create jobs right away.
Wow, it does? Then what took them so long? Why didn't they do this before? But the truth is that government cannot really create jobs. Well, I guess it can. It can pay people to dig holes and fill them up, but government cannot create real jobs, sustainable jobs. Private companies do that, and they do more of it if government just leaves them alone. But this administration never leaves companies alone. Right now, President Obama's Labor Relations Board is suing Boeing, the plane maker, because Boeing built in the wrong place. South Carolina, it turns out. South Carolina is a right-to-work state that allows workers not to join unions. The board says that Boeing broke the law, and they have proof. Boeing executives admitted that they built in South Carolina to get away from unions. A government lawyer says a Boeing official said, "We can't afford to have a work stoppage every 3 years." Sounds reasonable to me. I wouldn't want a work stoppage every 3 years. But if government wins its lawsuit, Boeing will be forced to either shut down the South Carolina plant or add more production in forced union states. Nikki Haley's upset about this, and I don't blame her. She's governor of South Carolina, and it does seem unfair that Boeing should be punished for daring to hire people in your state.
It's wrong. It's not unfair. It's absolutely un-American. And when you look at the fact that not only did Boeing create 1,000 jobs in South Carolina, they expanded their Washington state plant by 2,000 employees. Not one person was harmed in the process.
All right, but the National Labor Relations Board, which you want to get rid of, is supposed to be there to protect the workers. And in this case, Boeing does seem, at least partly, to be running from the union.
Well, you know, you've got the situation where I haven't seen anything that the NLRB has done to protect workers. You know, what they are doing is they're pushing the unions' work for them. They're turning around and saying they're going to stop Boeing from doing what they're doing. They're putting up posters in companies telling them that they can join unions. They sound like a sales representative for the unions right now. And what I will tell you is you've got a great American company like Boeing and a president who says he wants to see more made in America. But at the same time, he's allowing the NLRB to sue Boeing. He's allowing the NLRB to threaten to shut down Boeing, which is doing the exact same thing we want them to be doing in this country. He's forcing jobs overseas by allowing the union thugs to win.
And I haven't seen him aggressively questioned about this or seen him strongly defend the action. He just says, well, that's
we have
the board.
repeatedly questioned him about it. He just refuses to answer.
Now, you would just get rid of this board? You don't think we need to have some board like that?
I think there was a time and place where the unions were relevant. I think there was a time and place where they actually had some value. I have not seen any value come out of the NLRB. I don't know anyone that has seen any value come out of the NLRB. What they do think is that they have a very political leaning. They've got a support for the unions. They are pushing through on things that are wrong for our country, and they're not doing things that are right by the employees. What we have in South Carolina is a right-to-work state where the employees and the employers appreciate the direct relationship that they have. And we want to keep it that way. For the NLRB to be upset at how great South Carolina is and to take it out on Boeing is just wrong.
Let's clarify what you mean by right-to-work state. In some states, you have to join the union if the union is already representing workers in that shop. When I worked at ABC, was forced to join the union. In South Carolina, I could have said, fine, neighbor, fellow anchor, you want to work for the union? You want to pay them dues? You do, I don't.
You have the right in South Carolina to decide whether you want to be a part of a union or not. I think that it's very impressive that we have BMW, Michelin, and Boeing all in South Carolina, and when the unions have shown up at the company doors, the employees have told them to go away. For the NLRB to say we don't like that happening in South Carolina and we're going to stick it to them by showing Boeing is the wrong way to go. All they are showing is that they're a rogue agency that is no longer credible, that no longer has value.
The board would say we are not a rogue agency. Without us, a company, when people started to organize, would just fire the union organizers.
We have asked the NLRB to step up and show value. They have yet to show any evidence that supports that Boeing did anything wrong. The evidence is very clear. If you create 1,000 jobs in Charleston, South Carolina, and you expand 2,000 jobs in Washington State, who exactly was the person that was harmed here? The only group that was harmed is the unions because they chose, the employees in South Carolina chose not to let them come in. When you show me value of what the NLRB does, then I will tell you we need to have it. I've not seen anything that really values and tries to create jobs. And
What
I think
does
that
create
either it needs
jobs?
to be creating jobs is private sector. When government stays out of the way, that's when jobs happen. What the NLRB is doing is trying to carry the unions' water. The unions aren't relevant anymore, and they're not taking it well, and this is the way they're showing it.
Now, talk about creating jobs. You've called for getting rid of South Carolina's Arts Commission and South Carolina Public TV. I can see your opponents saying Nikki Haley destroys government jobs.
You know, my job as governor is to get back to the basics, as every governor in every state's had to do. And so what I've said is, what is the role of government? Government was intended to secure the rights and freedoms of the people. It was not intended to be all things to all people. I find it hard to believe that our founding fathers would have really wanted government to have an arts commission, where 70% of the money goes to salaries. This is a new time in our government, and this is a new time where we have to value the tax dollars, and we have to value the taxpayers. And when we see something that no longer is part of our mission as government, we need to get rid of it, no matter how unpopular it is.
And I assume you're saying that if the taxpayers had the money that now goes to the Arts Commission, that would be private sector money that would create jobs.
It's private sector money, or it's money back in their pockets. It's much better to be in the private sector's pockets than in government's pockets. Government will always find a way to spend money. The private sector will always find ways to create jobs. I'd much rather be creating jobs than having government spending.
Well, it's good to talk to you, Governor. It's this the first time we've spoken, and you remind me somewhat of your predecessor in your politics anyway, and not that you lied about being on the Appalachian Trail or had an affair with an Argentinian woman, but it seems like you and Mark Sanford, in your limited government beliefs, are in sync.
Well, you know, South Carolina is a great conservative state. It's a great pro-business state. We are doing very well when a lot of other states are struggling, and I think it's because of that philosophy where, you know, let the private sector work, keep government small, and when you do those things and you start looking from a business approach 10 years out, good things can happen.
Thank you, Governor Haley.
Thank you, John. It was great to be with you.
Thank you. Let's bring in the other side now. Miles Rappaport from the progressive think tank Demos. You say what Boeing did was wrong?
Well, I'd say this. I think that the role of the NLRB is to make sure that elections at companies can be fair and in a reasonable amount of time. And the NLRB historically has not done that over the last few years. In this case, the law is clear.
You want them to do more?
I do want them to do more. The record over the last 10 or 15 years has been that when there is a union election, the employers delay. They often do fire not only the union organizers, but rank and file workers who are in support of the union. and they have all kinds of unfair tactics. And I think in the Boeing case, I do think that the NLRB is enforcing the law. The law says very clearly that a company cannot say we are moving jobs if you go out on strike. That's what Boeing did. The NLRB is enforcing the law. I think it's right.
Well, the court will decide if the law says that, but if the law says that, the law is an ass, because if it's my company and I built it with my money and my workers are going to go on strike every 3 years, why shouldn't I get to leave that state?
If what the company is doing is intervening in a union election by saying that we're going to fire people or we're going to move or we're going to close down the plant, that's against the law, and it should be against the law.
If I'm the employer who built the business, shouldn't I have the right to say, I don't want this group of unionized workers. I want this group, which I think will work for less or work harder or won't have all these rules. What about job creation? I mean, there's paperwork behind me. These are 80,000 pages of rules the government put out just last year. So isn't this one reason that there are fewer jobs? That every day, this is what they churn out every day. If I'm an employer, I say, oh my goodness, it's just safer, keep my company small, don't hire.
I would say this. The middle class in the United States is under incredible siege.
Yes.
I think what the president's doing right now is right on target, right on the money. He ought to be complimented.
And you're saying without the minimum wage and without these laws, all these unbelievable pile of laws, there would be a race to the bottom. But then how come most people get paid more than the minimum wage? There's no law for 95% of the workers. They get paid more because they are productive, and employers, if they want good workers, need to pay them more. That's the market. That's what works.
I would say the market works just fine in some situations. Listen, if we had no regulations, we'd have child labor still. We wouldn't have mandatory education, K through 12. You know, we'd have a society in which people were left entirely to their own devices. It's the law of the jungle. I don't think it's where we want to be.
All right, thank you, Miles Rappaport of the progressive think tank Demos. Coming up, two other governors who have fought unions, one who took a lot of heat for it.